This is the notes for Unit 9, finding volume and surface area of prisms. We're going to start with, it says a rectangular prism. So to review, a prism was something whose vertical faces are rectangles. So if I see a rectangle here, I name it on the top a triangular prism. If I see rectangles on the side, but again a square on the top, then I call it a square prism and so forth. Okay, so that's really important today. When I go to try and find the volume and then the surface area, we need to know that these sides are rectangles that are the same, and then these sides also would be rectangles that are the same. Okay, so the top can change. This could be a triangle, a rectangle, a square, okay, based on what they call it. But if it's a prism, we know that there's an assumption that these are rectangles, okay, that are the same. So if I'm going to find the volume, we're going to take the area of the base times the height. Okay, we're stacking blocks inside of this shape. That's how I like to think of it. So if I have blocks going all the way up and then so many blocks across the bottom, my volume is counting how many of those blocks are on the inside. Okay, so if my base is a square, right, then I would do length times width. If it was a triangle, remember that then is half of a rectangle or half of a parallelogram. If I was to finish my picture here, a triangle is half. So if then for this one, after we do base times height, make sure we take it times a half. Okay, so whatever my bottom shape is, that'll tell me how many cubes are on that very bottom level. And then my height is how many of them that are stacked high. So if I have a rectangular prism, let's say I had 2 blocks by 3 blocks, I would have 6 of them, and then I could take that how many high to tell me how many total would fit inside my box. To find the surface area, that's how much is to cover my shape. Okay, so that's the outside casing around my box. The volume was how many blocks on the inside. The surface area is how much cardboard it would take to cover the outside. So a lot of times you'll see your teacher draw a net, and that's where I unfold this shape. So I take my rectangular prism and I unfold each of the sides so I can see each of them individually. Okay. If I have 6 sides in my shape, there was a rectangle, so there was a rectangle here and here, and then I had my 4 sides wrapping around it, I should end up with a net where I see 6 individual sides. We're going to find each of those surface areas separately, and then we're going to add them together. Okay, so that's our difference. Volume is how much goes on the inside, how many blocks. So we find how many blocks on the bottom level times the height. The surface area is how much cardboard it would take to cover it. So I unfold it, and each of these sides we're going to add up separately. All right, let's go ahead and try one. So we have a rectangular prism that's 5 by 3 by 2. Okay. To find my surface area, I need to know each of these sides of the rectangle. So let's just start with the one here that's facing us. I have a rectangle that's 5 by 3. Okay. When I unfold this, I'll also have another rectangle here on the back that's also 5 by 3. So my surface area is 5 times 3, which is 15. So I have an area of this rectangle that's 15, and I have an area of this rectangle that's 15. Okay, now let's find some more shapes. I also see across the bottom, I have another rectangle here that's flat, and that one is 5 by 2. So when I unfold it, usually you'll see those together in a row. So think about I'm wrapping around the outside my box. I had a 5 by 3, and then I had a 5 by 2, and I had a 5 by 3, and then another 5 by 2. So I'm wrapping around the outside of that box. So this rectangle is 5 by 2. To find the area, we would do 5 times 2, which is 10. So I'm going to write that on my notes. 5 times 2. These are each 10. So now I have 4 of my sides. I need 2 more though. On the corners, I see more rectangles. So here's a 3 by 2. Here's another 3 by 2. So usually they draw that to the side. So I already have my 2 there. So this one had 3. I already have my 2 there. So this one had the height of 3. So lastly in my net, 3 by 2 would give me an area of 6. Okay, so on your practice today, get in the habit of, if they don't already have that net drawn for you, try and unfold that shape. Okay, so I'm taking off each sides of my box separately to find the area. This front box was 5 by 3. The bottom and the top, 5 by 2, had 10. And then 3 by 6, 3 by 2, each of those sides were 6. Okay, so my last step is we need to add all of them together. So I had 15 on the top, but be careful, I also had 15 on the bottom. 10 on the top, 10 on the bottom, 6 on both sides. So if I add these up as is, I would get 31. But since I had each one of them happening twice, my total surface area would be 62. Okay, whatever my units are is going to be squared. So I took 3 units times 2 units, makes my label unit squared. And then it's up to you. We can take it times 2 since every one of these match. Okay, but when you get to tomorrow's example, then I'm going to have a different rectangle each time, so then I will need to have all of the sides listed. Okay, this one I didn't write 5 times 3 again and 5 times 2 again and 3 times 2 again since they matched. Okay. All right, then to find the volume, that's how many cubes go inside. Okay, so if we're looking at 5 by 2, 5 times 2 is the area of my base. So in our formula, it said base times height, so I'm just going to kind of shade that in there. So my base, 5 times 2, contained 10 blocks, and then they were stacked 3 high. I want my base times the height. In this example, my rectangle was 5 times 2, and my height was 3 blocks high. So if we have 10 blocks and they're stacked 3 high, that should give us a volume of 30 blocks would fit inside. Whatever my label is, inches, meters, feet. Okay, this one we don't have one, so I'm just going to say units would be to the 3rd power. I did a unit times a unit times a unit. Last time was just inches times inches, so that's why we squared it. The times 2 was because every block duplicated. Okay, so it didn't change that label. We just had units times units. When I get to the volume, though, I'm doing the base, so it'll be something times something. And my example is a rectangle, so just 5 times 2. And then my height was 3 high, so that was another one, so we said units cubed. Right. Our difference is surface area is all of my areas. I unfold my shape and we add them up. Volume is how much goes inside.